Thanks, Matt. Hey guys. As Matt said, my name's Rob and I'm a product manager at Nintex. And my primary focus is around connectivity and extensions in NWC. And today I want to share with you a feature I'm super excited about, the data lookup control. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, great. We've heard the feedback around data connectivity in NWC forms and that users want their form participants to be able to quickly and accurately fill out forms. We know that you all want to ensure that your forms and workflows do in fact solve the problems that they set out to do, and ultimately that those workflows get adopted by the business. The data lookup control is the first important step to giving form designers the ability to bind data from third-party services to drop-downs in NWC. Creating a data-bound drop-down is as simple as configuring a data source in the dashboard and selecting that data source in the options available for the data lookup control. The scenario I want to run through with you today is one where we want form participants to be able to select from a list of jobs available at Nintex. But I want the user to be able to filter those jobs by the office location. I've got two lists in SharePoint that contain office location and available jobs information, so I'm ready to create my data sources. To create a data source, you need to start at the dashboard. You'll notice that we have a new tab called Data Sources. If you click on that, you'll see all the data sources available. To create a data source, you click Add New. Select from our list of connectors and supported operations. For our first release, we'll support SharePoint, Azure Active Directory, and custom connectors, but we'll be adding additional native connector support in the coming months. Select your connector, select the operation, give your data source a name, give a description, select a connection, select the side point URL, select from the previously created SharePoint list, office locations. And here I want to select the location and the location ID. Any fields in this section that are unpopulated will be configurable in the Nintex Forms Designers. So this is a great way of exposing fields that you may want to bind to variables, for example. So we're going to leave this maximum number of rows to return as an example. And you can, of course, add any filtering through the condition builder. Save that data source. Once that's all completed, press save, and you're good to start configuring your data lookup controls in your form. As you can see, I've already created a data source for the available jobs just here in much the same way, so I'm ready to start configuring my form. Select form, design the form. And here you'll notice on the left, we've added a new control called the data lookup control. I'm going to add a couple of these controls to this canvas, and then I can get started. I'm going to call this one office locations. And I'm going to call this one available jobs. You'll notice in the configuration panel of this data lookup control that you can configure the data source bound to this. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to select my office locations demo 8, which I just created. You'll notice that the maximum number of rows now appears, and I could bind a variable to this. I'm not going to in this scenario, but I am going to fill this out. I'm just going to make this 10 for this example. I'm going to go back. And then I can select what values I want to bind to each of the options. I want to show the location in the text value for each of the options, and want to bind the location ID to the value that is selected. Okay, great. Then I'm going to configure the other drop-down, the available jobs drop-down, and I'm going to select available jobs demo 6. And here I want to add a condition. So I want to add a condition where the jobs that are shown are filtered by the office location selected in the first drop down. So I'm going to say where location ID is equal to, I'm going to insert a variable, and what was selected here in the office locations drop down. And then I'm going to add that condition. Go back. Then I'm going to select the job title. I'm going to have the job title for both the text and the value. Okay, so now that's all nice and configured. I can preview that. And you'll notice that the data is loading in these drop downs. If I select the first one, it's showing me all the office locations. I've got Melbourne, London, and Kuala Lumpur. If I select Melbourne, you'll notice that the second available jobs drop down is loading. And if I click on that, hey presto, I've got 3 available roles here, which I can select. I could also have selected London, and you notice the data reloads. There's a product marketing manager role, and if I selected Kuala Lumpur, there's a sales engineer and a customer service manager role. Isn't that cool? Very soon after the initial release, we'll be adding permissions to data sources so you can give edit and usage permissions to them, as well as mobile support. Currently, we have support for Active Directory, get users and SharePoint query a list operations, as well as custom connector support. However, as I said before, we will be adding support for other connectors, for example, Salesforce, MySQL, MS SQL, and Dynamics CRM in the upcoming months. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope you love this feature as much as I do. Over to you, Matt.